So you didn't like this episode either, huh? I can't blame you. A story overdone? That's just the beginning. There's more I have to say on behalf of this, but the issue of me reviewing this episode is that for the longest time, I've been too harsh on episodes I didn't like last season. Many people don't like it when reviewers are negative. I love what Season 5 is offering, and I don't want to risk making that same mistake like I did last season. The only human nature here, though, is to be honest about everything. We can at least provide more credibility, as there's a pretty decent amount.
True, even if we're both on the dislikes of this episode, we can go over it together.
It won't be easy, but it's worth a shot. Greetings to you all, I am GoldenFox.
Now I'm the voice of reason, as we bring you... Appaloosa's Most Wanted.
Let me first say that right now, I am not implying that this episode is completely bad. It has a pretty number of problems that outweigh the positives, but I can take the initiative of what the episode was trying to do. As it is, this episode has received a bit of a bad reputation. But I'll tell you this much, it sure isn't Some Pony to Watch Over Me or Rainbow Falls.
Oh, no, not towards today's episode. It was meh. Although Rainbow Falls may be my new Berserk button. Anyway, we start off in Appleoosa, as Applejack is taking over Braybird's spot of a rodeo competition due to his broken leg. While doing so, Braybird volunteers to babysit the CMC.
And the Cutie Mark Crusaders are excited about the events, like...
barrel racing, roping contests, rodeo clowning, steeplechase. If we can get into some of these events, we could all three walk off the train back in Ponyville with brand spanking new cutie marks.
Guys, did you completely forget what Luna told you 2 episodes ago? A cutie mark is who you are. Does this look like you're the kind of ponies to get these marks from? Let me say this right now. Apple Bloom, you can make potions and possibly build things. Sweetie Belle, you can sing. Scootaloo, what is your name again? What is it with the writers making these characters so oblivious to their identities? Do they honestly think that kids are stupid? Not even 1 minute in, and I'm already frustrated. God damn it, I'm in a bad start now.
It's okay, Fox. We forgive you. Anyways, Applejack is taking care of the rodeo, an accident happens, but thankfully everyone is safe. The sheriff warns everyone that a wanted outlaw is on the loose, and is infamous for trashing rodeo events. He goes by the name Troubleshoes, who will be later introduced in the episode. So for their safety, Braybird volunteers to babysit the CMC. Again. Because him losing the CMC the first time, it's an indication that he's trustworthy. That again, no other close relative isn't competing, so AJ's left with little options. So they're stuck with Braybird.
Yeah, because winning a stupid competition is more important than the safety of 3 kids. So after Brayburn locks the door and then passes out overnight, the CMC sneak out and attempt to find Troubleshoe's hideout so that they can get to compete.
Worst idea ever.
Okay, when the queen of bad ideas is telling you this is a bad idea, I'd be inclined to listen.
Unfortunately, almost no one is inclined to listen in this episode. They eventually find Troubleshoes, who lives in a broken trailer, and it's from here on it's a misunderstanding story. While most people think of him as a criminal, he's actually a klutz.
Of course, guests would arrive while I ain't got no pie to offer.
You know what? Screw it. I'm calling you Eeyore for the rest of the review.
Thus, this brings what I actually liked in the episode. The characterization of Troubleshoes is quite depressing when you think about it. As it shows, he's dealt with some of the most rotten luck in his life when he never asked for it. It's what led up to the current turmoil that he can't get himself out of, and it just makes me feel bad for him. There have been situations that some people have gotten into that question themselves about who they are, and what they struggle to learn about. So to the CMC's credit, they do manage to find a solution to the problem rather than assume his character as an outlaw. This is what's labeled him as such by the town, which unfortunately adds fuel to my fire of what aggravates me the most in this episode. The adult characters.
Can I just say, the adults are useless trope needs to die. The adults are so stupid in this episode that they act like 90s kids movie adults. such as Brayburn, Equestria's worst babysitter, or Sheriff Silverstar, Equestria's worst law enforcer. Which leads to yet another don't judge a book by its cover story. You know, I wouldn't mind so much if this wasn't the third time the show pulled this story off! Bridal gossip, Luna eclipsed, and now here! The CMC failed to communicate to the adults when they had the chance to bail out Eeyore for his clearly not wrongdoings, something that the show has had multiple problems with in the past.
Troubleshoes has, well, trouble seeing the events outside of the prison window because of all the mattresses breaking.
Oh, come on now, Troubleshoes. I'm running out of mattresses.
Hey, Sheriff, here's an idea. Why don't you get him a stool instead? Doesn't it ever occur to you that he's trying to watch something? Why don't you even have a chat with him and understand the entire situation, provided how depressed he looks? And here I go again, acting ruthless. Get it together. I hope I don't act like this in the rest of Season 5.
The CMC find out another way to help Eeyore's purpose of his cutie mark after a successful jailbreak. See, his motivation was that he wanted to be a part of the rodeo events. He never specified what he wanted, so he tried different kinds of stunts. With one exception, playing as a rodeo clown. He does so, and he succeeds at his performance, while unfortunately blowing his own cover. However, the CMC reasoned with the audience and come to a good closure after finally listening.
Thus, this brings the closure of Troubleshoes' turmoil.
That may be so, Troubleshoes, but you still gotta face charges for the problems you caused.
Oh, lay off, will you? It's not completely his fault for his identity crisis. In fact, you guys were the ones that labeled him as a criminal in the first place. You know what? That's it. I can't take it anymore. I know my attitude was vicious last season, but I think it's time I vent and let this out.
Well, I better go get the water bucket.
These adults in this episode are some of the most despicably betrayed characters in the entire series. While not as brutal as Diamond Tiara's actions, when you narrow down the entire turmoil of Troubleshoes, he's labeled as an outlaw for ruining rodeo events by accident year after year. Oh no, it's the end of the world. Someone call the ambulance. I mean, it's not like he robbed a saloon or committed murder or anything malicious in that matter. In fact, actual outlaws have shown their faces in very spaghetti westerns without remorse and acting very dominant. What did Troubleshoes do again? Oh yeah, cause an accident. If anything, the entire village put him in this position without a second thought. It only took until the CMC had to be active, and the fact that the CMC are being ignored about the situation just pisses me off. Such close-minded individuals who are morally irresponsible behind this mess. After everything is solved for Troubleshoes, the CMC admit their fault of being with Troubleshoes when he was accused of kidnapping, and then they are punished by making them clean up the mess, with what Applejack had to say.
You really want us to clean up all this mess Troubleshoes made?
Maybe it'll teach you not to go wandering off after I say not to.
Says the one who trusted her sister after nearly getting herself killed by a chimera over a fucking pie delivery. Not to mention how that fiasco started by her annoying presence. Thank you, voice. I needed that.
No problem. But continuing on the Applejack thing, her actions here were actually justified, since there was a clear danger, as opposed to some point to watch over me where the danger was soup. So, want to talk more about the positive stuff?
Sure, let's. This episode, as I said, isn't completely bad. In fact, what helped this episode better was how Troubleshoes' conflict was resolved by the CMC. Based on what's happened, this is the identity issue that stems back to Bloom and Gloom when the CMC feared what their marks would be, if whether or not they'd be satisfied. It's a nice callback, even though it did come at the cost of the CMC's continuity of their own identity.
What's interesting about this ending moral is how mature it is. I mean this in two ways. First, the idea of misinterpreting your meaning in life is very realistic. Sometimes even to adulthood, people have no idea what their calling is. Hell, it took me 3 times to realize I actually have a creative side and wanted to pursue a career in television production. The second is the placement of the moral incongruence of the episode. It feels like the ending doesn't fit with what transpired beforehand. They could have easily gone with the traditional don't judge a book by its cover story, combined with a learn to get your facts straight moral. Again, we saw that twice beforehand. But instead, they took the high road and delivered a surprisingly adult message. Again, great ending, I just think it should have been at the end of a more engaging episode. Not gonna lie, this episode was the most difficult to muster up a review of. The story, while told competently, has been done plenty of times before, note for note. While some characters get some fun interactions, such as the CMC and Eeyore, for everybody else we get the adults are useless trope. It was a fairly standard episode, technically speaking, with a few exceptions. While the episode was funny in the first and third acts, the overall enjoyment of the episode hindered because of a tired cliche that needs to die. However, the moral has an interesting take on the ambiguous cutie mark and was executed okay. As a result, I give Appaloosa's Most Wanted a 2-star rating, While it's nowhere near as bad as any of my bottom 15, I just don't have any engagement towards the episode.
Now, as far as I'm concerned about what's formulated, what's been done before, and what's considered cliched and unoriginal, these complaints haven't bothered me as much over the years, because frankly, almost every story in the 21st century has had a formula of some kind. It just depends on how well handled it is and how it's presented. As predictable as one story can be, it's the journey that matters the most. But in the case of Appaloosa's Most Wanted, the journey was difficult. This episode was all over the place. It takes a little too long to get to the conflict, and some of the continuity on the characters were thrown away for the convenience of the episode's plot. And I mean that in a bad way. And the adult characters. God damn, were the adult characters so despicable. Brayburn was a moron, the crowd was so stupid to believe anything they say, and the sheriff? Oh, this sheriff was the worst. He was close-minded, accusative in the worst manner possible, and he had absolutely no remorse over anything. I haven't seen characters this mean that not even the complaints of the mysterious Mayor Duell would have. Just the idea that this turmoil of troubleshoots by an entire village's assumption was just mean-spirited. I'm also pretty ticked off by the fact that the continuity of the CMC was chucked out for the convenience of the plot. I know the consistency isn't the show's greatest strength, but the fact that Bloom and Gloom, a great episode, was heavily discarded not long after it aired just feels disrespectful to the audience. To its credibility, I am with Voice of Reason about Troubleshoes and its morality. You sometimes have to look at things from a different view to understand yourself. It's a good moral about finding the true element of yourself, include that with a bit of some funny slapstick, and I also would give this a 2 out of 4 stars, even though I don't normally give ratings.
But hey, if this is the worst Season 5 has to offer, especially with much more entertaining and engaging episodes down the road, I'm willing to take this small speed bump over the worst episodes of past seasons.
Yeah, in fact, I have another great episode to review next. Make new friends, but keep discord.
So until the next episode, I'm the Voice of Reason.
And I'm GoldenFox, and let's hope that this season doesn't get another rainbow oh shit.
Nobody wants to be my friend, except for Winnie the Pooh. But that's all. Except for Winnie the Pooh, he's the only